Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here. I am live from, sort of live from California at the Race the World First in one of the awesome player housing apartments. I am not in my current home, but I want to make a video for you all because there were a handful of Affliction Warlock changes, some talent tree changes, some actual class tuning announced today, and some yesterday that are going to be hitting 10.0.5 PTR in the coming few days, which I assume 10.05 will be coming out somewhere in January, mid-January-ish, but a lot happening for Affliction Warlocks. Now, we've known Affliction over the course of Alpha and most of Beta to be pretty lacking when it comes to single target damage. Really good in AoE with Grim Reach, Dark Harvest, all that kind of stuff, but the single target has been lacking. However, these changes are making big strides to try and address the lack of single target that Affliction actually has. So, I want to cover them all today, talk to you guys about them a little bit here and there, and I guess give you my thoughts on them and just say how excited I actually am for Affliction to maybe be finally getting the help that it should have gotten, well, maybe a few months ago. So, with that being said, let's just jump right into it, starting off with the changes that came out yesterday that are hitting 10.0.5 PTR, and then we'll get into the actual changes that are coming this Tuesday to live servers. Alright, so getting into the 10.0.5 PTR Warlock changes for Affliction that were announced yesterday afternoon. So 10.0.5 PTR, I would assume is probably hitting somewhere in the next week and a half. I don't believe it's currently testable now. If it is, we'll look at it when I get back home. But the big thing is that I would guess 10.0.5 is hitting retail servers probably within a month or so, month and a half, to address some of the issues they had with talent trees on beta before we get into 10.1 and further into the expansion. Now, like we said a minute ago, Affliction's main issue is that it is pretty lacking when it comes to single target. It has pretty good AoE, Grim Reach, Dark Harvest, so the seed spam, all of that, but you're either pigeonholed into playing Absolute Corruption and Vile Taint, or if you want more single target, Siphon Life and PS, but then you're missing Vile Taint's Agony application, you're missing Absolute Corruption, making your life easier and plus more corruption damage. You're sort of like just choosing good single target or good AoE, and when I say good single target, it's still bad, just like it's a better single target kind of talent build. So what I've been saying is just play to your strengths. If you're playing Affliction for whatever reason, play Grim Reach, play Dark Harvest, just spam Seed, have good AoE, and just say, hey, my single target's going to suck. However, these changes that are being made to Affliction help address that. So off the bat here, as you can see, number one, Focused Malignancy, the conduit from Shadowlands. The Malefic Rapture damage increase on your UA target, right here, 15% at rank 1. Malefic Rapture deals 15% increased damage to targets suffering from Unstable Affliction. In rank 2, Malefic Rapture deals 30% increased damage to targets suffering from Unstable Affliction. So 2 points here, you're going to take both if you're playing it. A 30% increase to Rapture damage. Now Rapture, I believe, is around 18 to 20% of your damage breakdown, I believe, roughly for Affliction. So a 30% increase on top of that's not too bad. Number 2, Pandemic Invocation. So this has been changed from a max of 2 talent points to 1. However, they buffed the damage on the 1 rank to be what the 2 rank version of PI was before. So PI is sort of getting a buff in a sense. 1 point, same power level. Let's be honest, PI has been pretty subpar. It's an odd single target trait that really doesn't do a whole lot of damage at all. But keep in mind, it's 1 trait for essentially 2 points that we have now. So Malignancy being 2 points, rank 1, rank 2, PI being 1 now. I didn't make room for that. Well, Soul Tap has been removed, and I'll be honest, I thought Soul Tap was very, very broken in early alpha, even going into early beta, but in actual raid testing, Soul Tap's pretty mediocre. There's a lot of fights, Kurog, Dathia, with a lot of frequent incoming damage that doesn't really allow you to build a good Soul Leech shield. So while it was cool in certain scenarios when you could actually tap the Fire Shards for the bosses pulled and all that, I'm not too surprised they ended up just scrapping it. It's sort of one of those talents which is like, it needed help. They buffed and nerfed Soul Leech a bunch over the past few weeks and it's made Soul Leech even worse, Soul Tap even worse. So at this point, removing it, it is what it is. Malignancy, I'll take that over Soul Tap any day. Now the final ability here for Affliction, Soul Swap. So this is going back to older Soul Swap that we saw in previous expansions. The current version we have now that applies Agony, Corruption, and UA is gone now. The one we're getting in 10.0.5 PTR copies your damage overtime effects from a target, preserving their duration. Your next use of Soul Swap within 10 seconds will exhale a copy damage of the effects onto a new target. So this allows you to put up Agony, Corruption, Siphon Life, Unstable Affliction, Phantom Singularity, or Vile Taint, and Soul Rot if you want. Then essentially copy them by casting Soul Swap. If a second target spawns, exhale them, Copying, like putting up PS and putting up Soul Rot, I would assume as well, on both targets. But the issue is that Unstable Affliction is still limited to one target. So Soul Swap probably ends up moving that around. I would assume it still maintains Malefic Affliction stacks. But nonetheless, it's cool to see. It will be more useful in certain scenarios. Now, the downside is like if you wanted Soul Swap to be an opening spell, you just cast and it applies dots. You can't Soul Burn Soul Swap. You can't just go Soul Burn like you could back in the day, Soul Swap and apply all your dots on pull. But I think this version will be better in certain scenarios, like Kurog Grim Totem, for example. When you have the ad spawning, dot the main target, Soul Swap when they spawn, exhale, dots rolling on both. Plus you get double PS, double Soul Rot if you stagger it a bit. It's a good change. It takes a niche ability. It makes it... It's still niche, but it's better in scenarios where it would be good, if that makes sense, right? Plus, it's iconic. It's Soul Swap. A couple minor changes here, too, also to Inquisitor's Gaze and Soulkeeper. Inquisitor's Gaze is becoming basically a chance to proc. Whenever you proc it, it spawns and does damage. Let's be honest, both Inquisitor's Gaze and Soulkeeper have been pretty mediocre ever since Alpha. They don't do a whole lot of damage. In the end, they do some, so you take them, but it's good to see that it's actually on their radar of, hey, these need to change because they're pretty subpar. So Soulkeeper is getting a bit of a buff, I believe, some changes here and there. Inquisitor's Gaze is going to be a proc now. We'll take it. Not the best, but, not the worst. So keep in mind, we have, once again, Soul Tap being removed, Soul Swap being altered, Pandemic Invocation becoming 1 talent point, and Malignancy becoming 2. Now, I would assume they're probably going to put Malignancy here, being 2 talent points where PI is, and then put PI at 1 rank right here where Soul Tap is. So this row, theoretically, is going to go Pandemic Invocation, Focus, Malignancy, Creeping Death, Malefic Affliction, and then Dread Touch and Single Target. That is a powerhouse of single target talents here. Like, just 5 bangers, back to back, going into everything here. Now, might be saying, but Pandemic Invocation is sort of bad right now. Doesn't do a whole lot of damage. You'd be right. However, these changes coming to retail in 4 days on the 20th. So keep in mind, these are PTR. These are coming in 4 days. Affliction, getting even more love. Dash roll some buffs too. Chaos Bolt, we'll take it, sure. Malefic Rapture damage increased by 15%. Drain Soul increased by 20%. Shadow Bolt also increased by 20%. Pandemic Invocation damage increased by 500%. Pandemic Invocation is not a large portion of our damage. I think it's like 0.8 to like 1.3 roughly in single target. It's not very good, but a buff to this, a 500% buff to this, when they're increasing the actual rank value of 1 to what it is currently at 2 right now, it'll probably be somewhere around like 5.5% of your damage. Plus, keep in mind, there's a bit of a shard gen clause to it as well, right? So we'll see where it goes, unless they're removing the shard gen clause here. They might actually be removing it. No, they're still here actually, so there you go. So we'll see where it goes, but a 500% damage buff to PI, this is probably going to be an actually relevant talent in single target. Plus, once again here, Rapture being buffed by 15%. So Rapture buff baseline plus Malignancy buffing by 15 and 30 here. You're looking at a pretty substantial buff to Rapture when this all comes out to PTR. And even on retail now, Rapture getting a bit of a buff. Drain Soul, Shadow Bolt, they're your filler spells. Just passive damage. They probably don't want to buff Rapture too much or buff dots too much, but we'll take it. Drain Soul, XP damage, also relevant. Shadow Bolt being fine, filler spell, but this is solid. Rapture with Malignancy, Pandemic Invocation getting a large buff as well. It's good to see that they actually have an eye on Affliction. Now, I mean, obviously Sims aren't going to be done for a long time, I'd assume, but whenever this hits PTR, we'll end up checking it out. I would assume it's probably not going to be for a few days, maybe even a week or two. We'll see where it goes. The Race to World First is still going on. I don't think these changes that are coming on the 20th, on Tuesday, are going to make or break anything as far as AF's concerned. It'll be better, but the bigger thing is that unless they buff more for retail currently, I think AF's already very good at AoE. Grim Reach, Dark Harvest, so the Seed Spam, it's already very solid with 2-minute CDs. With all these changes coming in, Malignancy, baseline Rapture buffs, if they make AF's single target decent to good while still playing Absolute Corruption and Vile Taint and playing this build here, putting a point here for PI, putting 2 points here for Malignancy, maybe putting some points here, we'll figure it out somewhere, but like, if they can make that work, if they can make AF's single target acceptable and good while playing AC and Vile Taint, sure, better with Siphon Life and PS, but good enough where it's not just horrendous in plus in single target, they're building a powerhouse here. AF's customizable, and we brought it up yesterday as well during the race coverage, is that some specs are built where you can change 1 or 2 talents and they become great in AoE, and still very good in single target. Affliction currently is not really that spec, but with these changes, we're getting closer and closer. So it's cool to see them addressing specs that probably needed some help towards the end of beta, whether it be 10.0.5 PTR or 10.1, we'll see. But I'm happy with these changes. I think it actually helps AF out a pretty good bit. We'll see where it goes. But yeah, hope the video helped answer some questions you guys might have had about this. If you have any more, put them down below in the comment section. I'll be sure to get back to you. Once again, I apologize for the subpar quality. I'm not at home. I'm in California, filming on my laptop at midnight. I have a shift in an hour on the Race World First cast. But if you want to see that, links to both my stream and the actual Team Liquid stream down below. All that being said, thanks for watching, guys. If you like the video, hit the sub button below as well. Helps out a ton. And I will catch you all again soon on stream. Peace.